Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Perth County Council, this 7th day of November. I'd like to call our meeting to order. If everyone could please bow their head for a moment of reflection. Thank you. Read our land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that Perth County is situated on the traditional land of the Anishinaabe, who have a long-standing relationship with the land and water throughout the region. We honor and respect the history, languages, and culture of the diverse Indigenous, Metis, and Inuit people who call this territory home. As a county, we have a responsibility for reconciliation and a continued stewardship of the land on which we live and work. Okay, if you have pecuniary interest, you can disclose that now or as the meeting goes along. Councillor Castleberg.
Good morning, Warden Negetz. Thank you very much. I am going to declare a pecuniary interest on item 7.1 on our agenda, a presentation from United Way Perth Huron. I am an employee of that organization as well. Therefore, I will also declare on item 15.1, our confirmatory bylaw, for the same reasons.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? No, okay. Then confirmation of the agenda. We do have an addition, and I'll let Tyler tell you about that.
Thank you. So for the warden, the addition to the agenda would be under item 14.1 closed session. It is a matter pertaining to solicitor advice / potential litigation under the CAO's division.
Okay, so the November 7, 2024 agenda be approved as amended. Moved by Councillor Smith, seconded by Councillor Mackenzie. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, we're going to move to consent items next. We have 28 consent items. Is there any item anyone would like pulled or questions on? Councillor McDermott?
Yeah, 6.2, the community petitions. Like, how does that work for us? Like, I think in Toronto and Ottawa, a member has to bring that forward. So for petitions at the county, like how are they like certified? And then do we just deal them like just receiving for information or whatever? Just how does just the process?
Yeah, so through the warden, the way the petitions are dealt with is they come in, we receive them, we put them on the consent agenda, and it's received for information. You can pull them if you want to have a discussion about what the item is. But generally they get added as a package, put on, and then received just like any other consent item.
And would they, because it's a planning issue, would it also be sent to planning?
So through the warden is, because it's on the regular agenda, is the anticipation or the understanding is that all planning staff planning would review the agenda package, which Andrea has, and would be familiar with the item.
Okay, any other ones that anyone wishes to pull or have questions on? If not, we have a motion that council receives a consent agenda item 6.1 to 6.28 and approves the October 17, 2024 council minutes. Moved by Councillor Frankowski, seconded by Councillor Wilhelm. All in favor? Okay. Move to our public meeting, public hearing and delegations, and we do have a presentation this morning. And with us from United Way, we have Ryan Erb, Kathy Vascolasas, and Rebecca Scott. So welcome to Perth County Council.
Morning, friends.
And the floor is yours.
Thank you. We're glad to be here. Thank you for the opportunity to be in front of our friends here at Council, our warden, and also the staff and the public that's here with us today. For those of you who don't know me, Ryan Erb, Executive Director of some 16 years of United Way in this region, and so certainly thankful for the long-standing partnership that we have with the county on many different efforts over the years. We're here today to talk to you about something that's incredibly important for our community, and that is housing. But we're not here to talk to you about the crisis today. We're here to talk to you about solutions. And so we can go on about the statistics that tell us about the challenges we're facing in our community, and I think all of you are more than well aware of this at this point in time. But what we're trying to do now as an organization on behalf of the community is to move forward a concept and actually into practice now an organization that will build perpetually housing for our community, affordable housing for our community. So that is United Housing. Second slide, please. The history is, about 5 years ago, I was attending many meetings, not unlike lots of the people in this room, where we were talking about how do we manage the housing crisis that was coming towards us. And on behalf of the community, I made lots of calls and said to people, can we, find an organization that will help us in our community? So I phoned housing organizations all around the region, London, Kitchener, and so forth, and said, is there any capacity to come and help us in our community? At the time, and shortly thereafter, I was part of a committee of council here that I chaired for a period of time where we were looking for housing solutions. I think many of you remember that period of time. It was good conversation. All of us were trying to find ways to move forward. In the course of those conversations, we recognized that there is not a not-for-profit organization in our region that is leading in this affordable housing space. We know that we are doing significant work in partnership with our friends at Social Services. Of course, there's lots happening there, but we need a not-for-profit partner that can make sure that we can drive forward this agenda. So we set up United Housing last November. We announced it publicly after years of consultation, feasibility studies, business plans, and many, many people involved. And so by 2030, we're hoping that we have an established, sustainable, not-for-profit housing developer. That's what we're aiming for. The projects are a piece of this, but the actual aim is to create an organization that is running hundreds of units, not just a few, right? So this is where we're going. We have a project to start with today. Next slide, please.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Thank you for having us. So I want to start with actually just going quickly over some of the United Housing principles, because these are the principles that will guide the developments that we bring forward, but it also guides our partnerships. So it is a not-for-profit, but as I always say, it has to be financially viable. So we're not for profit, we can't lose money. Most of the work that we do will be in collaboration with community partners. This is rental housing that addresses affordability across a range of incomes. So it's mixed use or mixed income housing. So our model is that it'll be a third deeply affordable, a third attainable or workforce, so still below market housing, but higher than deeply affordable. And then a third of the units will be market units at our average market rent. So it helps everything cash flow. But it's also a really good model philosophically or ideologically around how you don't silo people and how you create stronger community within rental housing. Another piece of it is community building. Where we can, we will co-locate housing units with other community assets, because it's a great way. I think I read something where it said no more public buildings without attached housing. So it's a sort of a new paradigm of how you build affordable housing. Our projects will be as green as we can make them. And of course, the primary goal of this is to reduce homelessness, but at the same time address a housing crisis that is across a lot of income brackets. Next slide, please. So our activities are centered around sort of four main activities. We'll be a developer of housing, we'll operate housing, we'll do property management, and also what part of our model is that we hope to get to the point where we can actually acquire some existing housing as well. Next slide. So this is just a quick example of the housing strain, where the average income has increased about 19% in this time frame from 2018 to 2022, but the percent increase in 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, and 3-bedroom houses has been significantly higher than the increase in incomes. Which then, as that gap gets bigger, more money needs to go into someone's housing, which means less money goes into things like food, other activities, everything else. Next slide. If you want, I'm just going to take a quick minute to plug the Social Research and Planning Council. I know that Kristen has been here to talk to you about some of the work that they do. They have a new campaign that is Speak Up for Housing, and it's an advocacy campaign around housing. It has a lot of stories of people who are struggling with either getting housing or keeping their housing, but it also has, on the website, if you look up, there's a really great 2-pager that sort of condenses all of the data that we have that shows how big the problem is in our region. And it's very region specific, because quite often what we hear is that's a problem in big cities, that's not a problem here. And so this data is like how we address that question. Next slide. So this is sort of a bit of a year in review. United Housing was launched in November of 2023 formally. I joined in January, and these are some of the things. We have a strategic plan that has been completed. We're in the process of registering it as a not-for-profit subsidiary of the United Way Perth Huron. We have gone from a staff complement of 1.3 FTE to a staff complement of 3 FTE, and we also have a senior consultant who does our financial modeling for us. We've worked with a number of two consultants in particular, Tapestry Community Capital, which is going to help us develop and launch our first community bond campaign, and KCI Capital, which are doing our capital campaign training, and they will also help us with our first capital campaign. We've also participated in a number of programs and presentations. This one in particular is quite interesting because the University of Toronto School of Cities has an accelerated program for not-for-profit organizations working in the area of what we now call social purpose real estate, and that includes affordable housing. Next slide, please. So we have, in terms of funding, we've had municipal support. We will be doing housing community bonds. We'll have a capital campaign. We do have a number of current grants and we're continuing to apply for grants. We have fundraising events, and we also have some very, very generous community donors. And so there's a lot of fundraising activity that goes on. Next slide. And in terms of projects, we have 4 projects that are sort of in development, pre-development stage. We're in the process of we've acquired 2 properties, 2 more in process. We've explored a number of opportunities, whether they go anywhere or not. That's the nature of property development, about 5. We've done a lot of due diligence and planning studies, conferences, public awareness, and we've talked to a lot of people about collaboration and partnership. So I'd like to talk about two projects right now, and they're specifically in North Perth. There's a small retrofit project, and then there's a longer-term legacy project that we're working on. Next slide, please. So the first one we're calling the Music Hall Apartments. It's in downtown Listowel. It's a 10-unit retrofit. Next slide, please. And it's 4,500 square feet of underutilized space. It's the former McDonald Music Hall. Half of the space is single height, and the other, not quite half, 60% of the space is double height. So it'll allow for some either double, like 2-story units or loft units. So currently we're looking at 6 loft, 1 bedrooms, possibly some 2 bedrooms. And we're also like 1 bachelor unit will have to go in. And we do have 2 commercial units on the main floor, and those are helping cash flow the project. So while we currently own the building and we're doing the work we need to get to like a construction tender to do the retrofit upstairs, but the 2 units on the main floor are helping cash flow the project for now. It's actually cash flow positive, so it's really nice for us. Next slide. So I really like this project because we were involved with the official plan, the consultations for the official plan, and I realized that it's very consistent with some of the principles in your official plan. It's consistent with growth that is focused in already serviced urban areas. It's consistent with your general settlement area policies, and it provides a really perfect example of the benefits of that urban mixed-use designation, where if you do your residential intensification in areas that are close to commercial, it increases vitality and viability of those areas. Next slide. And some of the benefits, it's consistent with official plans, this concept of doing residential units in downtown cores. It does help reduce in homelessness, but it also works really well for workforce attraction and retention. Some of these smaller communities in Perth and Huron County, when you look at the county labor market, you look at it from the employer side, why is it difficult to get employees? The top 3 reasons are affordable housing, available housing, and transportation. And then when you ask employees, especially young employees, what are the 3 challenges to being able to relocate to a small town? It's housing affordability, housing availability, and transportation. And so adding residential units, especially some of these smaller residential units for younger people right in the municipality where it's a walking distance is a really good plan. It doesn't alter the streetscape. It's close to amenities. It has a low relative cost. It's self-sustaining. It's a low barrier for approval, so there aren't a lot of public meeting approval timelines that you need to meet. And for us, it's a proof of concept for expansion to other mixed-use urban areas. There's no farmland lost, and I think it's a nice, small project with a really, manageable, and it demonstrates leadership for the housing, to address housing, but it's manageable for our first project. Next slide. So I just want to, it's a really neat project because it's a very historical building. It was built in 1895 under the auspices of the Ancient Order of Workmen, which sounds like a cult, but it's actually a mutual company. It was a mutual assurance company that morphed into, it was quite large, it was bought by Foresters. Foresters is still around, but I guess these mutual assurance companies eventually, they built buildings all over southwestern Ontario. And that's, that second picture there is Listowel District High School doing HMS Pinafore in 1946. So this is what the community used for a lot of their productions. And so it has a very long history in Listowel. Next slide. It has been part of the Listowel landscape since it was a dirt road and they were using buggies. I made the term that women were wearing tassels and a young man went, I'm gonna have to look that up. So I don't know what that says about either how old I am or how young people learn. So next slide. And here's a picture of what's going on upstairs. It really is a forgotten space. We take people through, and if you'd like to go through, let me know. We can arrange for that. People will go, I didn't even know it was here. I forgot, oh, you know, and it's interesting because it fell out of use sometime in the 1970s and then just was forgotten. So that is the space that we will retrofit. And next slide. And this is a preliminary concept plan. The architect is now working on the refined diagrams, obviously for construction, but this is what you can actually fit in that space. It's 10 residential units. Next slide. And so our capital stack for this project is, the entire project all in is $2.5 million. And, you know, we'll have a capital campaign, we'll have a bond campaign. We're hoping for municipal grant contributions and grants. We are also approaching other levels of government. And we're hoping to meet that goal at some point in 2025 so we can start construction. Next slide. The other project is the North Perth Library project. The United Way acquired that project from North Perth in 2022, and it is a complete redevelopment of the site. It would include a redevelopment of the library, maintaining the Carnegie portion of that library because it's a historic building. It will expand the library. It would add space for up to 17 social service and community service agencies on the first 2 floors, and then it will include a number of floors of housing, 40-ish residential units in downtown Listowel. Next slide. And it really is a legacy project. And this is just some of the data around what it would look like in the space. Next slide. And where we are on that, we have some CMHC, we had CMHC seed funding, we have Green Municipal Fund for the study, and we're literally, like, we're in the study phase for that one. It's, we've done the heritage impact, the ESA 1 is done, the survey, the property never had a survey, so it has an actual registered survey now. And next up is the phase 2 ESA and a noise study. And also an updated concept drawings, because the concept drawings were done a number of years ago, so it's time to go back to our partners and say, does this space still meet your needs? Do we need to tweak it? What do we need to do? And part of that would be how we applied for funding from CMHC. Does it meet their requirements? So next slide. So Ryan, back to you.
So we're here today to ask for help because we are looking for partnership from all levels of government. You can imagine that we've already begun conversations with North Perth. In fact, Kathy didn't mention it, but this project is possible thanks to the North Perth Council because they provided a no-interest loan until occupancy to purchase the building in the first place of $800,000. And so that's a major thing that North Perth has done for us to make this possible. We also are interested to continue to work on our relationships with the provincial government. So we have an ask that is in place and in the works with the provincial government to support this project. We also have an application in for federal support through the Reaching Home. And we feel confident that we're going to get some support from those levels of government. Can't say for sure, but we've had very positive conversations. We'd like every level of government that's involved with this to contribute in some way. It helps us to leverage each other, right? When we can say county council's in, It means something to the province, it means something to the feds. But we recognize, as we've been approaching this conversation today, that you in particular are facing quite a significant tax levy this year. So we understand that. When we spoke to Lori first in the summer, we were talking about asking for a cash contribution, but what we'd like to do is instead ask for a loan. We'd like you to consider a $300,000 interest-free loan until the rent-up phase, and then low interest thereafter to help us with the overall cost of the project. And we're hoping that someone will make a motion to refer this to staff for further conversation today. So we understand that you're in a difficult position with the number of demands that are upon council, so we're not trying to ask for too much, but we also want to be taking a team approach with this and need every level of government to be behind it so that we can be successful with our first project that will lead us to many other projects down the road. It's a demonstration project in many ways. So with your support, we think that we can make this project a reality by renovations beginning in late 2026. We're happy to answer any questions.
Okay,
Thank you. Questions of the presenters?
Councillor Orr?
I don't mean to put Kathy on the spot, but I know that you, I'm currently on the Spruce Lodge not-for-profit housing. What is the difference there? Like, I know you used to be on that board as well.
So Spruce Lodge Not-for-Profit, it's wholly owned by the 3 municipalities, that organization.
Yes.
And it's owned under the umbrella of the Spruce Lodge Continuum. So not-for-profit housing is a wholly owned subsidiary of that. So it's a similar in that way.
Yes.
Spruce Lodge Not-for-Profit has a specific population. So within their model, they're people with disabilities or people over the age of 55, but they also have a similar model in that they have market and non-market units.
Right.
They also have a target mix that they're going to be, that they have to sort of manage over time. Right, so it's a very, very similar model. I've already actually met with Peter to actually talk to him about some of the policies they have around how they manage the mix, how they manage the applications, how they manage their 2 different lists. Our list would be 3 lists. So the essential difference is ours is not age restricted. Some of our developments may be age restricted. Some of them may in the future be specific to specific populations. But this first one is open to anyone, but the application process and the target mix that we'll have within it will be in thirds rather than, I think Spruce Lodge right now it's 50-50, but it may shift a little bit with the end of their operating agreements with the feds and the province. But that's sort of it. And I think Spruce Lodge also, Tower 3 has life lease, and that's a separate little piece that they have. So similar but different.
Yeah, I just wanted you to clarify that.
Oh, yes, okay.
Okay, any other questions? I have a couple. So you're talking about a loan. Are you talking 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? What are you looking?
Open to have that discussion. In some ways, it's me looking at our operating pro forma and saying if it's a 5-year loan at 3% or a 5-year loan at whatever, like it's rent-free till rent up when we have cash flow. I would have to see whether that loan, whether I can meet the requirements. So if we may be able to do it at 5-year, I'd have to go back and run the numbers. We may be able to do it at 10-year or 15. It would really depend on what the rate is that you come back with. I think that's a conversation we need to have. But for me, it's all about where the numbers fit and where we can drop it in.
So I can't see the presentation again, but try to remember, but I'm looking for people to invest. What happens if you don't get that investment? Then what? Do you still go ahead or you delay it? You look for more money from somewhere else or what?
I think the answer is yes to all those things. Anything's possible. We certainly feel that the community component, the community bond component will probably be the easiest part of our capital stack. We have had a tremendous response already from people just learning that this is a possibility. And we've also been tracking with Tapestry Community Capital, who sets this up across Canada on behalf of CMHC. They've been consulting with us and preparing us for the community bond campaign and have shown every bond campaign that they've offered across Canada has sold out. And so we don't anticipate that to be difficult. We actually think that, the cash component is the most difficult part of this, right? So raising cash donations from individuals in the community, although we already have a lot of interested parties and we'll begin that process formally. So we don't know, but we're hopeful. Yeah.
Okay, and I guess the other question I have, I noticed both your projects are in North Perth. What about the rest of us in Perth County? Is it
It's a fair question. Yeah.
somewhere else?
Well, we do have, I mean, you mentioned 4 projects. There's probably 7 conversations or even more that are ongoing. And so we're open for business to talk with anybody at any time if there's an opportunity in communities. We, as an organization, only have so much capacity to take on projects, but it is our intention to be active in every municipality across Perth and Huron.
And I'm just going to add that this particular project is sort of seeding other conversations. So what I find interesting is people see this and they go, well, there is a building in downtown X that this would be you could do this too, or you can do this with. And so we do have a RED grant right now, the Rural Economic Development Grant, to explore how well this translates to the rest of the region. The Ontario BIA Association is very interested in looking at the results of that project, because we think it scales. And I think most communities in Perth County could very easily have one or two of these projects in their communities. And we're happy to have that. I think we just stumbled on these being the first 2, to be honest, because there's lots of other conversations, there's other projects in other communities. These 2 just made it past the finish line first.
Okay, anyone else? If not, thank you very much. We really appreciate your time and the information that you gave us this morning.
Thank you.
Okay, so we do have a motion for the presentation. That council receives a presentation from United Way Perth Huron for information. We have a mover and a seconder for that, moved by Councillor McDermott, seconded by Councillor Wilhelm. All in favor? Carried. Okay. We're going to move on to staff reports, and the first staff report is the forestry inspector's report. Great. No, that's good. Tyler's going to do that. So Tyler, the floor is yours.
Perfect. So through the warden, before council is the September 2024 Forestry Inspector's Report prepared by our Forestry Inspector, Marvin Smith. In the month of September, Marvin completed 4 inspections in response to the submission of a notice of intent and 3 inspections in response to a request from the landowner. If there's any questions, concerns, or inquiries, I'd be happy to pass those along to Marvin.
Okay, any questions of the report? Seeing none, we have a motion. Receives the September 2024 Forestry Inspector's Report for information. Moved by Councillor Kassenberg, seconded by Councillor Orr. All in favor? Carried. Okay, our next one is our 2025 fees and charges bylaw update, and I believe Corey's with us this morning to do that.
And Andrea as well.
And Andrea? Great. The floor is yours.
Thanks, Warren Nuggets and Council. Purpose of this report is to add revisions and add some other items to the fee bylaw that not necessarily were in there previously. The review is done annually, but we do have a provision within the bylaw that allows us to add an inflationary factor to the fees on any given year and not necessarily have to come to council for the purpose of these additions. The reason for the report is that under the review, planning division has done some review of their fees in general, and there's some gaps within the fees that we have here at the County of Perth. The additional fees proposed are, again, reflect cost recovery related to staff time and resources in relation to planning matters for the purpose of development. And again, what we would like to do is the cost recovery so that it was removed off the levy and not necessarily paid by the citizens, but paid by the developer through the process of the applications. The items within the report are identified based on time and cost, and the proposals are there related to the process and the types of applications that are there as well. If there's any questions, Andrea and I are here to answer them.
Okay, thank you. Questions of the report? Councillor Trinkowski?
thanks, Warden.
Oh, give it a second to catch up with you.
Okay,
Bye now.
okay, thanks, Warden. Good morning, fellow counselors and staff. Not a question, but a comment. My comment would be supporting any move taken for full cost recovery of our staff time and expenses on providing these services. It's important to have cost recovery. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? If not, we have a motion that council receives a report entitled 2025 fee and charges bylaw update, and that staff be directed to present the necessary bylaw to repeal and replace bylaw 3947-2023. Need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Wilhelms, second by Councillor Trinkowski. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you both. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to move to our MSSC 2025 budget report for the Stratford Perth Archives, and with us this morning we have Betty Jo. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Warden. So the report from Stratford Perth Archives that you have in front of you today is intended for the MSSC meeting in 2 weeks. It's their budget meeting. It is a summary of the Archives 2025 operational budget request for the committee's information. And it's presented on the understanding that the budget is, of course, still subject to review by County Council. To put our budget information into some context, the report also includes information about Archives accomplishments this year and priorities for next year. So given the full agenda for Council today and that budget information will be presented by the Treasurer a little bit later, I won't go into any more detail, but I'm certainly happy to respond to any questions or comments that Council may have.
Okay, thank you. Questions of the report? No questions. So we have a motion that council receives the MSSC 2025 budget report for Stratford Perth Archives, and that council approves the report for submission to the MSSC budget meeting of November 21st, 2024. Moved by Deputy Warden Kellum, second by Councillor Smith. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Okay, next we go to the POA Court Service Budget Report for MSSC and operational update. And with us this morning, we have Vicki. Morning, Vicki, and welcome, and the floor is yours.
Morning, Warden Nuggets and members of council. My report today provides an update on activities at the Provincial Offences Court until the end of August, and also budget information that is required for MSSC meeting on November 21st. The trial dockets for the remainder of 2024 are completely full. The Regional Senior Justice of the Peace has released the first 6 months of next year's calendar. You will notice in the report that revenue is much higher than in previous years, and that is because of some large regulatory fines that were paid between January and June of this year. For MSSC budget, the estimated revenue is based on the average of the 5-year actuals. Consistent with prior reporting, revenue has been normalized to reduce the financial impact of COVID-19 for 2020 and 2021. Revenue is quite difficult to predict. For instance, 2024 fine revenue to be distributed far exceeded the projected amounts. In 2023, the payouts were 300% higher, and in 2024, the projected payouts are 1,691% higher budgeted. Salary costs will appear lower in 2025 as the assistant prosecutor position has been moved under the prosecution expense line, which will appear higher. The position of prosecutor will be brought in-house as opposed to the county contracting for services to increase efficiencies and realize cost savings. This administrative change does not impact the overall expenses of the program. Schedule B of the intermunicipal service agreement allows for revenue for technology upgrade, reserve for technology upgrade. The funds are set aside to update the sound system to coincide with renovations in the courtroom. Money in this fund will be used to purchase new equipment that is required to update the sound technology, such as backup microphones and a mixer device to improve the sound quality in the courtroom. Deficits are projected for 2026 and 27. under the operating expenses in Schedule B, county administration costs have included a contingency of $76,154 to cover any future deficits. For example, the projected deficit for 2027 would require the use of approximately $16,000 of that contingency to eliminate that deficit. The contingency calculation is 10% of the net municipal share amount. These deficits may not be realized. For example, 2024 revenue was calculated to be $1,715,000, and the projected actual is anticipated to be approximately $2,537,000, which is 40% higher than anticipated. This is just a draft budget only, as County Council has not had the opportunity to review or approve the 2025 budget. But that does conclude my report. Any questions?
Okay, thank you. Any questions of the report? Seeing no questions, we have a motion that council receives the POA Court Services Budget Report for MSSC and Operational Update Report, and that council approves the report for submission to the Municipal Shared Services Committee meeting of November 21st, 2024. Moved by Councilor McKenzie, second by Councilor Wilhelm. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Okay, we're now moving to paramedic services in the 2025 budget report for the MSSC committee, and we have Mike with us this morning. Morning, welcome. And Georgia, or so.
Good morning to the warden. The MSSC budget report is before council. In addition to what's on this report, just as a quick update to our council, for your awareness, we have submitted our response time performance plan renewal, which we do annually, and there have been no changes to that, to the province. Our offload delay program that we received funding for is advancing, and we're close to signing an agreement. It's just having a legal review with the hospital at the moment, but we'd be expecting that program to be up and running the first week of December, if not maybe a bit earlier. Our service review, which is the province certification to operate the ambulance service, it takes place the first or second week of December on the 9th and 10th. And so we are preparing for that over the next 4 weeks. We've been preparing for a while, but now is the last few weeks as we lead to that. We are we're rethinking our strategy in terms of purchasing monitors, our defibrillators that our paramedics use every day, in terms of instead of purchasing, actually going out for to see if we can lease them through an RFP, which might help with stabilizing the increases that you're seeing in medical supplies over the course of a 10-year cycle. So we're rethinking a bit of how we do business, because some other services have had some positive traction on that across the province. So with that in mind, I'm happy to receive any questions.
Okay, thank you. Any questions of the report? Seeing no questions, we have a motion that council receives the Perth County Paramedic Services 2025 budget report for the Municipal Shared Services Committee report for information, and that council approves the Perth County Paramedic Services 2025 budget report for the Municipal Shared Services Committee to be presented at November 21st, 2024 MSSC meeting. We have a mover and a seconder, moved by Councillor McDermott, second by Councillor Orr. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. And next we go to the 2025 budget, overall budget presentation. And Corey's going to come back and do that with us this morning.
Thanks, Warren. I guess in council, the previous three reports were just a prelude to the overall presentation that I'm going to be presenting to you guys right now. Next slide. Again, on behalf of county staff, I'm absolute pleasure to again to provide council with a draft 2025 budget. As we look ahead, the forecast of future budgets suggests promising trends of easing inflation pressures indicated that we are beginning to move past the significant challenges posed by recent economic fluctuations. The gradual improvement creates an opportunity for a more stable and predictable financial plan without the use of reserves to mitigate the challenges we have seen in the past 2 budget cycles. Perth County is moving to the backside of an inflationary bump and on a downward trend. This 2025 budget reflects the continued hard work of department staff to provide an excellent service to the citizens of Perth County as we emerge from this inflationary bump. Perth County's approach to the budgeting should be one of optimism tempered with caution by understanding the economic landscape, reallocating resources strategically, and engaging council, and the continuous monitoring of ongoing developments. Allows Perth County in creating a budget that not only responds to the current realities, but also positions us into the future for success. This holistic approach or perspective will not only stabilize our financial footing, but also enhance our capacity to serve the community effectively in the coming years. Next slide. To that, the 2025 draft budget is a 13.18% increase, or just over 25 million in levy request. Of that, it's an increase of just under $3 million of levy from the previous year. Projected increases for 26 and 27, 26 increase is projected to be 2.4 million, or a 9.7% increase over and above this increase. And 27, the levy increase is expected to be 1.5 additional, or a 5.56% increase. Next slide. In 2025, utilizing approximately just over 300,000 from the levy stabilization reserve within the budget to assist in these inflationary pressures. 200,000, which is half of what we used in 2024, and with the relation to OMPF reductions, an additional $112,300. 100,000 proposed to be used from the working fund reserve to further assist the cost pressures seen in 24 and 25 budget cycles. This reduces the levy to 3.18%, or just again under $3 million increased levy request. The reserve used represents 1.86% of the 2025 levy increase, offset by those reserves. Next slide. 2025 will be a conservative year in new assessment within Perth County. We have set the growth increase at an estimated 1.5%, which represents about $333,000 of levy increase offset by growth. This reduces the increase to 11.68% and will represent the estimated tax rate increase for 2025. This will have to be reviewed again late in the year, early new year, as we update council on the actual growth from 2024 once provided by the Municipal Property Assessment Corporation, or MPACT. Again, the remaining increase is not supported by growth. Next slide. What is not in this draft budget is the additional considerations that have been proposed to council in previous meetings. These considerations are the continuation of PC Connect past the 2020 March 31st, 2025 date. That date is the exhaustion of the provincial funding, and we would have achieved the full exhaustion of that, and essentially any other costs would be borne by the taxpayer. Other requests from external organizations have been 50,000 from the Huron-Perth Agriculture Science Center for financial support, and 500,000 to Stratford General Hospital Foundation in Our Hands capital campaign. For reference, 1% of the levy is equivalent to approximately $220,000. Next slide. What does this look like on a typical family home? And again, this is based on 2016 assessment values. Within Perth County, 281,000 is the average or median family home in Perth County. Again, 2016 values. And at the top line, you'd see just over $95 increase on your property tax bill for 2025. And again, farmland is also within there, and farmland valued at about 1.5 million. That includes the ratio reduction, would see a $131 increase to their property taxes. Next slide. Again, the use of these reserves in relation to reductions to what we see as provincial transfers. We again see that our provincial transfers for funding is decreasing. Where our allocation is 85% of the previous year. Our amount is decreasing $94,000, and that reduction represents about 0.42% of that total 13.18. And again, we still have $533,000 to lose, and that represents about a 2.4% increase when removed completely. All members are now seeing increases in their funding allotments in 2025 and onwards. Amount increases in Perth County total $463,000 outside of the loss of $94,000 to the member municipalities. This again is the transitional assistance that we're losing here in Perth County and being shifted to the other envelopes within. Recent provincial announcements from the Economic Fall Statement has indicated OMPF will be receiving additional funding in the coming years with an additional indexing thereafter. Current funding level is $500 million. It will increase to 550 in 2025 and 600 million in 2026. This is then also would be distributed to the member municipalities who are all out of transition and alluded to the 463,000 of additional funding that they will receive in 2025. Next slide. Funding FT full-time equivalent requests in 2025. County has forecasted an increase of a count of about approximately 6 FTEs. The resourcing requests have been indicated within the particular divisional budgets and have been determined by management to be the highest priority for the 2025 year. The positions are identified here, salary and benefits and the impact to the overall levy. COLA for 2025, again, was set at 3.13% and it amounted to about 250,000, which represents a 0.68% increase. I did allude to 220,000 being 1%, and that doesn't equate to $251,000 increase. But it depends on when the positions are situated on the impacts. So for example, a position that is in a shared service area, partners pay for their portion of those positions versus a position on a area that is fully on the levy. And that's where you see those, that's why that percentage is slightly different than the percentage, than a 1% or $220,000. Next slide. Now to the 2025 capital budget. The capital projects listed are just around $11 million. These are 39 total projects, which major of those projects are related to roads, bridges, rehabilitations, and fleet replacements. Nothing too special. The amounts to be funded is $9 million funded from reserves, with just under $2 million to be funded from the Canada Community Building Fund, or used to be gas tax, and the Ontario Community Infrastructure Fund. And that is amounting just under $2 million. Within the budget, we're moving about just over $4 million in the capital levy to put back into the reserves for future capital projects. Next slide. The asset management plan, which again identified a capital levy increase of about approximately 1.4% to close that infrastructure gap. The county currently has a consistent increase in the dedicated capital levy of approximately 1%. In actuality, in this year, it's actually 1.26%, which is amounting to about $280,000 levy increase. The dedicated increase to roads and bridges over the next 6 years, we'll see that gap close. The contribution to roads to get to within 6 years will be up to 3.7 million approximately. And this will allow us to close that gap. Our current amount is 2.85 million within the draft budget. So we have an $875,000 gap to close. For the bridges and culverts, again, about a 6-year timeframe to close the gap to get us to a $1.44 million. This, again, inflationary increases, the deficit that we have in that area is that within the capital budget is about $940,000 being allocated to bridges and culverts. So we have a $500,000 gap in roads and bridges, bridges and culverts to get us to an area where we're generating enough into the reserves to do the work that we need to do. Next slide. What's next? So the 2025 draft proposed budget is available online. It's located under perthcounty.ca/finance. It is available to council and to the public, which houses a 10-year capital budget plan. And that budget plan has what we say is a continuity of reserves, as well as the individual capital project sheets for 2025. The operational budgets will include the 2025 work plans, as well as the budget financial forecasts for 2025. And then, as you're aware, timelines is the next couple council meetings will be further to discussion related to capital and operating budgets. Thank you very much, and I'll answer any questions.
Okay, thanks, Corey. Any questions? Councillor McDermott?
Yeah, Corey, in our budget, what percent of industrial and commercial is our total tax base? So like the amount of money you want to raise, what would come from commercial and industrial?
So that amount is about our industrial commercial in Perth County without City of Stratford and the town of St. Mary's is 10% of the total. So we generate 10% of our revenue from industrial commercial classes.
Okay. How would that compare to like other, like say Huron County or something?
So other municipalities that would have those other two urban centers as part of that, their commercial industrial would be higher on the fact that they would have those urban areas that have the industrial and commercial within the overall mix of classes.
And if they did though, would that also mean that their costs would be a lot higher too? Like would they be benefiting by having all that revenue? Would the revenue exceed the cost to service that area?
That's a difficult question to answer. Are you talking related to development? Or what are you talking in relation to generating? So they're just an additional component of the assessment of the area and would help offset other costs in other areas. Not necessarily be more costly. They might have additional things that would cost more in those areas as well, just based on the mix of tax class.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Orr?
Corey, just want to go back and touch base about the OMPF funding. I thought the lower tiers were all getting more stabilized. For some reason, I thought I heard you say we're not.
No, so yes. So the lower tiers or member municipalities are stabilized. They're out of transition. They're actually getting additional OMPF money in 2025 to deal with costs. They're getting additional provincial transfers. What the county is not getting and will not get is any additional money. What I mentioned was $436,000 is being inputted back into Perth County at the member municipality level.
But not county level.
Not the county level. We will be exiting that. We're on a framework of 85% of the previous year. It will get to a point where the province will say that's minimal to us, and then we'll eliminate that at that time. Transition component represents only 2% of the total 500 million allotment currently. And the 550 million, it's probably even less now when they add 50 million into those different envelopes.
Okay, Councillor Duncan?
Yeah, through you, Warden. Corey, has the province indicated when they're going to update MPAC assessments and when we will base our levy requirements on those updated assessments?
Great question. Through the word to Councillor Duncan, that is still unknown under relation of when that will happen. I thought it was going to take a full cycle, a 4-year cycle, which was the normal cycle of reassessment, to do so, meaning that we would be in that conversation of reassessment today. But there's still nothing from the province related to when that will happen. Again, remember the province is doing this taxation assessment review that has been ongoing prior to COVID. It's still ongoing as well.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Deputy Warden Kellum?
Yes, through the warden, I'm not sure if you can answer this, Corey, but with regards to the FTE requests, so we're adding one more person to the economic development team?
Correct. And from my understanding, that was already approved through council. It was pre-approved position.
Good, thank you.
Okay, any more questions? If not, thanks, Corey. Great report. We have a motion that council receives the 2025 overall budget presentation for information. Moved by Councillor Wilhelm, second by Councillor Duncan. All in favor? Okay, now we're moving to council reports, and you have my warden activity report where I was for the month of October. Is there any questions on any of that? Okay, then we have a motion that council receives the warden activity report, October 2024 report for information. Moved by Councillor Kassenberg, second by Deputy Warden Kellum. All in favor? Carried. And we go to bylaws. And we have bylaw 4004-2024 be read first, second, third time, finally passes 7th day of November of 2024. Moved by Councillor McDermott, second by Councillor Wilhelm. All in favor? Carried. Do we have any notice of motions? Any other business? We do have one item of other business, and this is a time that we're, anyone who wishes to declare whether they want to run for the position of warden or deputy warden for the next year of council. So we're going to start with Bob and go around the table, and everybody can make comments of they liked or disliked the past year and what their intentions are. So Bob, I know you're the newest kid on the block, but we'll let you go.
Thanks for picking on me. I appreciate being back and the support, and I definitely will not be putting my name forward, but I do look forward to supporting everyone next year.
Okay.
Yes, through the warden. This has now been my 10th year of serving on county council. I've really enjoyed working with my colleagues. Some have changed. With staff, I have learned a lot this past year being the deputy warden, and for some of those reasons, I will put my name forth for warden.
I too have enjoyed working with everybody, but at this point in time, I will pass.
Like everyone else, my time here has been thoroughly enjoyable, but I will not be putting my name forward for either position at this time.
Okay, Dean?
Thanks, Warden, through you.
Just 1 second.
Okay, try now.
Okay, thanks, Warden, through you. There's a saying that the days are long and the years are short, and I'm coming up on the conclusion of my second year with my duties at County Council. It's been an honor, privilege, and a pleasure to work with my colleagues and to work with my staff. It's been, in some respects, it's been learning in the fast lane with a lot of changes and a lot of business that comes across the County Council table. So at this time, I would like to announce my intent to pursue the role of Deputy Warden. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Kassenberg?
Well, thank you, Warden Eggets. Certainly, as is known, I have expressed interest in the past and recognize the honor that the wardenship represents As one who has considered in the past, I can certainly say that I have respect for those who take that seat. But I can also announce that I do not intend to stand for a re-election in 2026. So for me, I'm on the exit ramp at this point. I don't believe it would be prudent or wise for me to serve as warden, even though there is some regret about not having the opportunity because of that interest. But certainly in my next 2 years as mayor of North Perth, I have lots on my plate. This council will have lots on its plate. And I respect the fact that others will stand forward and do this at this time. So certainly with some small pangs of regret that I won't have that experience over what I project will be 8 years of municipal elected service, I will not stand for warden now or the next year. Thank you.
I've enjoyed certainly this term of council. I think we've had a great council to work together, and the impact of that, I think, has been the official plan that I don't know how many years we've been working on that, and finally got it through. I think a lot of credit goes to staff, and with regards to the official plan, certainly the planning staff have done a great job in pushing that through. I do want to, mention Lori. I think she has done a great job of guiding this ship through not necessarily all even keel. There's been some little torment times, but we've certainly gone through. So I certainly don't have any special plans for next year, and I wish those that have put their name forward all the best.
I have been moved into a role a little unexpected, so I'm going to maintain being acting mayor of Perth South. I don't feel that I could handle any more right now moving forward, and I'm happy to serve on this council. Rhonda, I'd have to say I'm impressed with all of the things that you do and go to. It's every event you are at, and you should be commended for the time you've given to this council. But I will not be standing for warden or deputy warden, and encourage those and will support those that are.
Yeah, so unlike Councillor Kassenberg, I'm still kind of on the upward swing. I have been around the local table for around 20 years, but around this table, this is just a second year, first term on county council. So I appreciate what the warden has done, all of staff. Again, I'm kind of on the upward swing, but I still have a lot to learn. I've learned a lot around this table. Not knowing somewhat what county council does or have done in the past, there's still a lot to learn. Having said all that, I have no intention of running for warden at this time. I think I did announce that last year, that at some point, as long as I'm around this table, I would like that position, because I understand it's quite an honor. But again, at this point, I will not be putting my name forward for warden or deputy wardens. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, everyone. So I guess it's my turn now. I want to thank all my colleagues, first of all, for your trust and your thinking that I can do the job. When I got on council many years ago, I've been here almost 24 years, I had no aspirations at all to be at the top or to be the warden or be anything. And Jim, I'll give Jim Aitchison a lot of credit. He come to me and said, I want you as my deputy. And I went, like, really? And so I got the privilege of working with Jim pretty close for 3 years. And yeah, so when the time came, he said, okay, it's time for you to go up. And I just went, okay. But I can't thank all of you enough for support and always being there. And it is a huge job. You go to an awful lot of functions, and it is a privilege to be the warden. And I've really enjoyed it. I also want to thank staff. I can't thank you all enough for all that you do and your support, and you make us look good. And you're always there. When I need answers, you're always there to help me and help all of council. So we can't thank all of you enough for everything that you do. I want to thank Doug. He's always been there too. Anytime that they needed to bounce something off of him or talk to him, he was always a phone call away or a text away or something, and we worked very well together. So I really appreciate that, all that you have done as well. We have accomplished a lot. The official plan, boy, I'm glad to see that in the end of the books there. I thought farm severances was bad there years ago, but I think the official plan topped that off, and we can't thank planning staff enough. And I know a lot of you come in the middle of the chaos, and you just took the bull by the horns and away you went, and here we are today. We have it sent off, so that's pretty exciting. The renovations we're doing at the courthouse too, wow. We've talked in circles for years. We finally took the initiative. We got the elevator in. Now we have our connecting link. Now we're going to have new facilities for all our staff. So we're hoping that all of you enjoy the new facilities. I know John has worked really hard to get it where it is today, John, and we can't thank you enough either for all that you've done to get it where it is. I've also had the privilege to work with Western Ontario wardens. That's really something to be part of. They're, you sit in that room and you watch everybody and how we interact together, and we have worked very well together as well. And I've also had the privilege to work with Matthew Ray and John Nader too. They're two great guys that really care about our community, and they're always there for us. I should have backed up there a bit. Lori and Tyler, you two are great. I know I sit here and I pass little notes to you. I get my funny look on my face, and you guys seem to know exactly what I need and where the next thing we need to do. So I can't thank both of you enough too for all that you've done. So at this time, no, I am not going to seek re-election. I'm ready to step aside. I'm ready to let Doug take the helm unless someone else comes up and challenges him in December. But I can't, like I said, I can't thank you all enough for the privilege. I guess one of my highlights too, I didn't touch on, was going to Japan. And that was really something to go to different countries on our trade mission that we were on and see how things are run and bring back ideas that we can use here, because this little pen that I use every day, that's my Japan pen. So it always reminds me of that trip. So anyway, thank you again. Thank you to staff. Thank you to council. And I look forward to still sitting on county council. It's going to be kind of weird sitting out there and not being, it's, I don't know, call me center of attention, what do you want to call it? But anyway, that's all I have to say. Okay, so if there's, next thing on our agenda is announcements. Are there any announcements at this time? If not, we do have a need for a closed session, so we'll do that motion, and that is that council move into closed session at approximately 10:07 a.m. in accordance with Section 239 of the Municipal Act to consider a matter pertaining to negotiations, CAO, a matter pertaining to personal individual/labor relations under the CAO, and a matter pertaining to solicitor advice / potential litigation under the CAO. Moved by Councillor McKenzie, second by Councillor McDermott. All in favor? Okay, we have bylaw 4005-2024 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council of the Corporation of the County of Perth at its regular meeting held November 7, 2024, is read a first, second, and third time and finally passed the 7th day of November 2024. Moved by Councillor Smith, second by Councillor McKenzie. All in favor? Carried. Okay, and then the last motion of the morning is that we adjourn at 11:26 a.m. Moved by Councillor Orr, second by Councillor Duncan. All in favor? Carried. Thanks, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.